everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 727, Wildcard Weekend Recap. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm a little concerned that the Duca curse has fully infected me, and there's now a Hewitt curse that exists. And maybe my move has I'm on a Native American burial ground here or something like that now, and that the luck has deserted me. But aside from that, things are going pretty well.
I mean, I don't think I infected you. I think it's the move. I mean, I think Paris, you were the self-proclaimed Prince of Paris, and you have left your stomping grounds. There's no one there left to run the city, and the city has taken it out on you.
But now I'm the Sultan of Saint-Germain, so it's...
Doesn't have quite a good ring.
But yeah, no,
doesn't
maybe
flow from the tongue as much.
I need a little bit longer. We don't have a sample size big enough to really be able to come to conclusive results. But definitely things have gone poorly before Chelsea. Since I made their declarations, I've got unhappy Chelsea fans messaging us. Sam Darnold fell off a cliff in the final couple of weeks of the NFL season, including last night in the playoffs. So,
well, yeah, I thought you were going to blame me for that because, I officially announced that I was moving to University of Minnesota on, I think, January 3rd, January 4th. And since then, the Vikings have gone 0-2 and are out of the playoffs.
It looked awful. Like, not even just gone 0-2, looked catastrophically bad in both games, particularly last night. Gave up a playoff record number of sacks, which I don't think Sam Darnold has some responsibility for, in that he could have got the ball out a bit sooner at times.
Yeah.
But also, he was under pressure a lot. That wasn't down to him. But yeah,
so I saw, we'll get more into it, but I did see a stat last night that said they have like metrics now to kind of blame the quarterback versus not quarterback. And 6 of the 9 sacks were his fault, basically.
That's probably just Amazon AWS propaganda, Jeff
it was like when you hold the ball for 19 seconds and just stand there and then get sacked. Usually it's on you.
Give him credit. He usually didn't stand there. He usually moved backwards slowly in circles. So, really, he was trying to confuse the defense, and it didn't quite work that time. But you should get excited. I think there's a strong chance that Sam Darnold will be the quarterback of either the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns next season now. So he has, you have that to look forward to.
So, I mean, one, he was definitely seeing ghosts again. This was a classic seeing ghosts game. 2, I was thinking about this today because I also saw something on a Giants Facebook thing or whatever. They were saying potentially if they don't want to pick someone up in this draft because the quarterbacks aren't so great, that maybe they can pick up a veteran QB. And obviously Darnold has been thrown around there as a veteran QB. The other option I saw was to trade a 4th-round pick to pick up Kirk Cousins. What's the better option, Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold? Because I'll tell you mine. I would 100% take Kirk Cousins.
I wouldn't. I think, you got Kirk Cousins getting older, coming off a number of injuries. I think he's a spent force. I think with Sam Darnold, we forget how young he is because he was drafted so young. He's been around forever. And look, I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is going to become an all-pro quarterback, but I think with Sam Darnold, there is potential for some improvement if he is in a stable environment, given we saw that a little bit with the Vikings. If you can trust him, if you can, have him work under a single offensive coordinator, if you can make him feel confident that he is the starting quarterback, I think
get him the number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. Well,
a good second receiver.
Well, if you look at both of the potential landing spots in the Giants and the Browns, who I think are probably the 2 strongest candidates, both of them have offensive weapons, at least around him. You're not going into an offense where you have no receivers and no targets. So I mean, it's going to be tough for him because he cost himself millions and millions of dollars last night.
So much money.
There is
these last 2 weeks. If there's ever someone who's like, I wish I could have gotten injured 2 weeks ago, this is it.
Oh no, he would have been much better off with an injury that forced him to sit out these last 2 weeks, because he is he was probably looking at reasonably expecting to get maybe $30 million a year as an easy asking price of, oh, look, I'm way less expensive than these top tier quarterbacks. And now I think you're looking at 20 million, where someone
not
decides,
staying.
Yes. And the Vikings will almost certainly move on from him now, you would think, assuming that JJ McCarthy is anywhere near to being healthy. Yeah. And also you have to give him at least 20 million a year, probably. Yeah. So can you have a backup on that kind of, in that price range? Probably not. So,
man,
I feel sorry for him.
Imagine the alternate script where before that Lions game on week 18, he goes down late in the Packers game. In comes Daniel Jones, wins the Lion game, gets the first seed, goes to at least the conference championship. Daniel Jones revitalizes his career. Sam Darnold sits out, gets $35 million a year. These two people would have been the happiest people on the planet.
Well, the Daniel Jones thing, right, is even worse for him, because assuming that the Vikings kind of like Daniel Jones from what they've seen of him so far, you then have the natural replacement as the experienced backup who can also potentially start the first couple of weeks. So you've had the transition period already, unfortunately. I mean, we sometimes joke, right, that we could never handle the cash out offer on bets properly. Imagine if Sam Darnold could have visualized the kind of cash out offer on his next contract going into the final week of the season of like, the cash out offer is $300 million. And it's like, going into the playoffs, the cash out offer is $200 million now. And now the cash out offer is $100 million. But I mean, still, life's pretty nice, but it definitely has not gone well for him.
Yeah. And the nice part is he would have had that cash out. It would have been a probably decent cash out offer with almost still an odds on left to win with that week 18 bet on the Lions. It wasn't like it was a 1-5 game at the end. He should have took that cash out all day.
Yeah. But and speaking of quarterback scenarios, I guess, talking about the Browns as a potential landing spot, obviously things have opened up more there on the back of Deshaun Watson re-injuring his Achilles injury, which actually is a little bit of a blessing in disguise, or not even in disguise for the Browns, as it's going to soften the cap blow of having Deshaun Watson there. So it does allow the Browns to go out and splurge a bit on a quarterback, which is great news for Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins, whoever it is that they decide to set their sights on. The interesting thing is there's a possibility here that that they might be able to void Deshaun Watson's contract, as he seems to have injured himself rolling his ankle during his recovery period. And videos have emerged that he posted, and I think his girlfriend or wife, I don't know who it is,
like shooting on Instagram, like in like a beach scene or something, right?
Yes.
Like on a yacht or something.
Not wearing his boot within the time period where he should absolutely be in his boot. And that may allow the Browns to void his contract on the basis that he is in breach of, clear medical instructions that he was provided by the Browns medical staff. So this could be, I'm not sure the Browns are deserving of a get out of jail free clause, but this could be the escape that they needed.
I mean, maybe he just doesn't like the feeling of the boot on his body. I mean, we already know he doesn't like the feeling of a towel on his body. He likes to take the towel off during a massage. So why doesn't he like to take the boot off?
Yeah. He's just a nudist. This is it. He's a nudist, and people are giving him a hard time about it. But yeah, I mean, that's talking about quarterbacks. His career's over. I can't imagine. There's
breaking news.
No, but a lot of people, we've seen a lot of NFL players.
But here's the thing. I don't think it is.
You don't? I think it is.
I think there's some stupid team that will sign him at like, oh, we can get a cheap backup. Like, imagine if he plays like he did when he was good 17 years ago. Like, teams are stupid.
I do agree with you.
He'll be a Cowboy. He'll be a Cowboy next year. Jerry Jones probably loves them.
They have group massages. But I think the tough thing for him is, A, you've got the bad publicity. and B, he's had really
You're
bad
terrible.
quarterback play. And you can overlook one of the two, overlooking both of them. But sure, I guess if he said, oh, he'll take a league minimum to go and play somewhere, and yeah, you'd probably rather have him as a backup than a lot of people. So you're right. There'll probably be someone stupid enough to bring him in as a second or third string quarterback and roll him out in the offseason and see how he is. And then we'll probably get great stories about people have, the perceptions surrounding Deshaun Watson are all wrong. He's a great guy. Everyone here loves him. I mean, you kind of got that from the Browns a little bit when he injured his Achilles in the first place, and Myles Garrett and all those players came out and spoke positively about
Jameis
him.
Winston.
And, yeah. Jameis Winston doesn't know what's going on, so I don't know. But yeah, it'll be interesting as we transition into the offseason. That will be one of the little bit of quarterback chess maneuvering will be interesting to follow.
Yeah. I mean, getting back to the Giants, I said I'd rather take Cousins because I think at this point, at least you know what you're getting with Cousins. And if the goal of the Giants is to not get a QB this year, it will definitely be to get one the following year. So I think you have an opportunity to have a really good veteran who is well liked in the locker room, is a good leader, and prepares well, is a good pro. I think that he would be a good person to kind of hand the reins over and kind of teach whatever the rookie is versus Darnold. I don't want Darnold coming in and telling the next QB to look out for these ghosts that are coming in on 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8. So not who I want to teach the next gen.
I guess. I mean, as I said, the thing that's going to be the reason why I think Sam Darnold is more likely is because every coach that's ever had him, right, just raves about him. So
until it's a big game, apparently.
Yeah. You had multiple coaches in a row now who talk about his arm talent as being the best they've ever seen, how, he really great at learning the playbook and fitting in. And so I think I would definitely rather have Sam Darnold. I think if you're either the Browns or the Giants with Sam Darnold, I think you can feel like you're building something with him.
We've seen Darnold in New York before. It didn't
we
go
have
well.
done. But we've seen Kirk Cousins everywhere. It's never gone that well.
But it's never gone that badly.
That's fair. You might make the playoffs. You might make the playoffs.
If the Giants could make the playoffs, that would be a miracle.
I guess the thing you could say, at least with Kirk Cousins, and maybe this is why you should want it as a Giants fan, there have been a lot of boring Giants games where you've struggled to score 20 points. That doesn't happen with Kirk Cousins. He may also throw multiple interceptions in the game and you lose, 42-30, but you at least will be scoring 24 to 30 points every game. That's, but still, I don't know. I would still rather have Sam Darnold. But getting onto the games themselves, do we go?
A lot of games to cover.
Not very many interesting games.
No,
basically,
one good game out of 6.
Yeah.
One good game.
Yeah. So do we start with the good game or do we go in chronological order, reverse chronological order? How do you want to approach it? Let's
go chronological order. So we can start with the first game, which was the Texans and the Chargers. And this was a killer for me. This was both disappointing personally as a fan of Justin Herbert, and also disappointing financially because the Chargers money line was in every one of my bets. And even looking back on it, I still it wasn't one of those ones where it was, oh man, what was I thinking? Like I should have known the Texans are a really good team, because I don't think they are a very good team. And I still, even after watching that game, I'm not sold that they are even going to give the Chiefs any run for their money. I mean, the Chargers just looked outcoached, outplayed. And that was kind of the crazy part is you would think the Chargers would have the edge in like coaching and game management and, responding to what happens early on. Like going into the second half, I kind of thought, okay, Harbaugh knows what he's doing. He's going to go in there. He's going to change the game plan up. He's going to right the ship and they're going to come out and it's going to be like a completely different game. And it wasn't. It was like more of the same, which was really surprising. He just looked a little outmatched there. So just overall, it was a disappointing game to watch. Disappointing for Herbert. I think that is not the legacy you want to start to develop, that you're not a clutch quarterback. Is he the next Sam Darnold? Who knows? But just, not a great game.
No, and it's a weird one because in the end, it looks like you look at the score. They Texans won by 20. They didn't completely blow the Chargers out. Like that game was closer than the score makes it look. And on top of it too, you look at the Texans, the Chargers who were 6 up at the end of the first quarter. You then also had the Texans threw an interception late in the second quarter, and then the Chargers Herbert immediately threw an interception right back. Like there was a chance at the Chargers were the better team in the first half and should have been winning, and probably could have almost put the game to bed in that first quarter and a half. Like they had a few drive stalls. The Texans didn't really look like they could move the ball. And I think the Texans were able to get belief over time as they realized, they're not going to kill us in this game. Like we're not playing very well and we're still within a score. And like that, because that was almost as dominant of a 6-0 as you're going to get in a single quarter.
And maybe looking back on it, that was, had they scored a touchdown in one of those first two, not that they win the game, but maybe their confidence is different and their game plan is a little different. But you could tell when they went up, I had that slight feeling, it multiplied by the fact that my dad was texting me 16 times about how Herbert sucks within 5 minutes of that first quarter. Like it was unbelievable how quickly he turned on Herbert. Welcome
to the club.
They were up, but you could kind of feel like, 2 field goals here is not what you wanted this early on. Like this is a game you kind of just want to put away and just have it ended. And I think that was where I kind of felt something might happen here. And then once they scored that touchdown to go up 7-6, I was not feeling comfortable already.
Yeah, and you could just see the weight almost being lifted off the Texans and a kind of a renewed belief coming into them once they got that score. But yeah, I think if they get a touchdown, certainly if it's 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, I think that probably is game over, because then it plays into the Chargers' hands. They want to be a run-heavy team. They could just sort of game manage their way to a victory. But, we can't be too critical of Sam Darnold and talk about all the millions he cost without also addressing the fact that for Justin Herbert now, I think there have to be serious questions about, he's good, but does he deserve, he was being penciled into a discussion with, top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He's some way off that type. Joe Burrow wins that game, put it that way. Like if that's the head-to-head comparison, I have no doubt that Joe Burrow wins that. And I'm not even Joe Burrow's biggest fan, but I think you could have named 10 quarterbacks who, if you put them into the Chargers on Saturday night, win that game.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend him in that game. I mean, he played very poorly. This is now, I think, at least the third game I've seen of it being a important must-win game that he's lost. You can go back to the last time they were in the playoffs and they were up 20 points on the Jags, and blew that game. That's a question there. Whether he's a good quarterback or not, I think is still a little insane to think about. I mean, he had 3 interceptions the entire year. He was 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Like he had a great year. He is a good quarterback.
Though. Okay, I remember it was probably around a year ago or beginning of this year, maybe, I jokingly said Brock Purdy for Justin Herbert, who says no.
Brock Purdy won't be in the NFL in 2 years.
I think the Niners say no. Herbert for Purdy now.
No, 100% they get rid of Purdy. They know the Niners right now are in this situation where they're thinking about signing Purdy. And a year ago, they would have thought, oh my God, we've got him. Now they're in a little bit of like are we going to Daniel Jones ourselves? We're going to Daniel Jones ourselves.
Might sign Daniel
Brock
Jones.
Purdy is the next Daniel Jones.
He's already achieved more.
He's going to sign a big contract, and he's going to just fall off a cliff.
All right, Stephen A. Smith, we can calm down here. But I just think Herbert's stock has fallen pretty dramatically over the course of this season. I think we've seen a lot of quarterbacks from that same generation. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has fallen the most, probably, out of quarterbacks drafted in that kind of within a couple of years of each other. But Justin Herbert definitely has as well. And for a long time, I kind of thought of him a little bit as Phil Rivers 2.0, in that he was good, fun to watch.
Hall of Famer Phil Rivers?
I think now Philip Rivers 2.0 is he is now a bad copy of Phillip Rivers. Like, that's an insult to
you're
Phillip Rivers
crazy.
to start throwing him into that type of conversation, because Phillip Rivers wins that game yesterday. He then gets blown out in the next round, but he wins on Saturday.
Here's where your take is insane. You will defend Sam Darnold for being a good quarterback, and Sam Darnold has not the regular season stats as good as Herbert, nor is he good in the clutch. So at least Herbert in a regular season is very good, but he's just not good in clutch situations, apparently.
But this season, Sam Darnold statistically was better than Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I guess, but not very much.
Objectively better. But anyway, I think and the reason why that annoyed me, I mean, neither of those teams were particularly good, and both probably fairly lucky to be in the playoffs for different reasons. The reason that really annoys me is that I've been talking all year about how the Chiefs were going to lose in the divisional round.
I know that's why you're mad. I know.
And here we go. They get served up this meatball of a game against the Texans. I
guess that's what happens when you're 16-1 and get the first seed.
It does place. It's a great example of the importance, both of actually in the AFC and the NFC. This is a really good example of how important getting that number one seed is, getting the bye, because both teams have been not only avoided potentially complicated round sort of wildcard weekend games, but then also been handed up the easiest possible opponents in round two. So it's really played out beautifully for both of those teams, both of whom I think have big question marks surrounding them for different reasons. But yeah, I now have to, the Chiefs are 8-point favorites. I can't see the Texans beating them. So now I have to accept that the Chiefs are once again going to be in the championship game. And then they're only one game away from the Super Bowl. So all it takes is one win.
That's why you get the number one seed.
No, you're not wrong.
You get a bye, and you're guaranteed to play most likely the worst team in the playoffs.
Sure, but this year it's worked out particularly well. There's lots of years where you almost feel unlucky because of how things go, but this year it's worked out particularly well, and for both of the AFC and NFC number one seeds. But anyway, we'll get on to our predictions for the next episode. But
and 15-2 for the Chiefs. I said 16-1, but obviously they lost that last week in a meaningless game. But what actually, this is a win. I still think it's a win-win for you though, because here's the scenario. One, now the Chiefs are 8-point favorites, so you throw them in every bet you have, and then they lose, and then you get to bitch endlessly about how you knew you shouldn't have trusted them. You've said it all year. They suck. They suck. They suck. Or they win, but they don't win convincingly enough, and you say, see, I told you they could barely beat the Texans. It's a win-win.
No, it's not really a win-win, because you'll still give me a hard time that they made the championship game. And then I have to be all in on either the Bills or the Ravens to really beat the Chiefs. But you are right. I will now place the Chiefs money line in every bet I have this weekend. At least they're first. So if it loses, I just rebet. It's not the end of the world. If they are losing, you're definitely going to get some really angry messages from me mid-game with me saying, I knew it, I shouldn't have done it. The only way I win, they have to win money line, and they have to win on like a last-second field goal. And that way I can still come on the podcast and criticize them, but I don't lose money. If they outright lose, I'll just be annoyed that I lost money on them when deep down I knew they weren't a good team. And maybe I'll throw the Texans in something.
Oh, I already see your bet, and your bet's going to lose because you're going to get selfish, and you're going to convince yourself into like Chelsea or Arsenal on Saturday, and they're going to lose, and then everything else is going to hit, and then we're going to have to hear you complain about how you jinxed Chelsea from the Hewitt curse, or that Arsenal are the shittiest team you've ever seen.
Yeah, well, we'll get onto those topics later.
ChatGPT can write this next episode.
Second game of the playoffs. Ravens, Steelers.
Play the clip, Eddie. Give it to me. I deserve it.
Not the cliff he wanted, but yeah, look, the Steelers outclassed, outplayed. Every time they kind of felt like they might get back into it, then they allowed, huge plays from the Ravens or big drives. In the end, probably slightly flattered, only losing by 14 points. It felt like
that game was over at half. Like, it was done. Some of the stats were insane from the half. So the Ravens had 19 first downs in that first half. The Steelers only ran 18 total plays that half. Derrick Henry had more rushing yards than the entire Steelers offense had in the first half. I mean, that was as dominating a performance of a game as you could see in that first half. And you could tell the Ravens were just like, whoa, maybe we should like slow this down. We don't need this anymore. Like, let's not get hurt. Let's not show any trick plays. Let's not get too crazy here. That was an ass whooping of a first half.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Ravens I'm picking now the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. It's not the boldest prediction at this stage, but I do feel like everything's coming together at the right time. They're more confident in their identity now than they were, say, at the beginning of the season. And yes, assuming they don't have injuries to any of their sort of 4 key players that they cannot afford to lose, I think they'll beat the Bills, they'll beat the Chiefs, and then they'll undoubtedly be, 3 to 6 point favorites in the Super Bowl, regardless of who they're playing from the NFC. And feels like they're built to beat pretty much all of the teams in the NFC. The one factor is like maybe the Lions, if their defense somehow holds up, just because they're so fast and just because they score so many points, that the way the Ravens construct drives and are slow, that, if the Ravens ever stall and you're up against the Lions, you could suddenly find yourself in a big hole. And we've seen this from the Ravens before, where it's great when everything's going well, but all of a sudden, if they're down 10, 14 points early on, they kind of had to ditch the running game a little bit because they can't afford to have these 9-minute drives. And that's where they get into trouble, because you start putting Lamar Jackson in a situation where he's not as comfortable, or he's at least not playing to his strengths. But they feel like they're the best team kind of on every side of the ball at the moment. And it seems difficult to imagine how you stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson from just running all over you. And you really have to pick your poison with them. And it's either, is Lamar Jackson going to run for 150 yards, or is Derrick Henry going to run for 150 yards? And or probably both.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Actually, I think they are the best team in the NFL right now. Even if you go back and look at all of their losses and kind of think about, okay, how can they be beaten? Like you said, what's it going to take to beat them? You go back week 1, they lost to the Chiefs in a game that was extremely close, and had that non-touchdown at the end that was very close to actually winning that game. They lost to the Raiders, which could be the biggest blip in the entire NFL this season. Actually, I would definitely put it as the biggest blip this season. Outplayed them completely. Just, I think they had a missed field goal or 2 maybe there. Lost to the Browns, which was a weird game, but played pretty well that game. And then lost to the Steelers in that game that they completely outplayed the Steelers, but had 3 turnovers. I think 3 or 4 turnovers. And then lost to the Eagles in that game where Tucker missed 2 super, super important field goals. So, I mean, even their losses, when you look back on them, are games where they probably were the better team in that game almost every time. So I definitely think they are the best team, if not top 2. Like, it's already switched the line for the Bills. The Bills were favored early on, and now the Ravens are favored. So I think you're already seeing that most people kind of agree with that. And I think they could even be close to being favored if they play the Chiefs. So the ways to beat them, I think. Good.
I think whoever plays out of that, I think whoever wins the Bills-Ravens game will be favorite against the Chiefs. Not by much. I think 1 to 3 points, depending on the nature of their victory in the round before. And yeah, okay, maybe if the Chiefs win by 50, it kind of shifts people's mindsets a little bit. But I do think the Chiefs will be underdogs at home in the championship round.
But I think, how do you beat the Ravens? I think you have to, like you said, force them into long drives where they mess up and have a turnover, or you hope Justin Tucker decides to Justin Tucker 2024 and miss easy field goals.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really stupid, right? It does sound like the kind of thing a former NFL player would say on, NFL game day and feel like it's revelatory. But you have to get the lead against them. You have to put them in an uncomfortable position where they have to start to think about, oh, it's maybe, and that would be the thing, I guess, that scares me a little bit with who they have to go through on the AFC side of things in the Bills and the Chiefs. Those are two teams who can get off to fast starts and very likely to score in opening drives. And you can, okay, the 7-0 hole doesn't score me, but if they then stall on their first drive and it gets to 10-0, 14-0, you would hope that they have enough confidence in themselves now to not ditch their game plan in the first or second quarter. But definitely if you can take them, end of the third quarter, if you're up by 10 points, it puts them in a tricky situation in terms of how do they start managing the game, where they aren't killing too much clock as they get back into it. So it sounds stupid. It sounds obvious that the best way to beat them is to be beating them. But, I don't have as much fear over, say, the Bills being down 10 points in a third quarter because they can score in a hurry.
And I think you still have to add on the fact, whether it's fair or not, that Lamar in big playoff games has not been that great and has at points, even he's admitted, he tries too hard and presses too much and the result is not great. So I think getting down and having to see Lamar react to that and play within himself is a concern.
Yeah. And the potential pressure that he adds to himself. We spoke about it last week. We spoke about it with Sam Darnold, the idea that, comparing, say, him and Josh Allen in that game coming up next week, there's undoubtedly more pressure on Lamar Jackson. Yes, there's pressure on both of them because they both need to get over the hump at some point and win a Super Bowl. And yes, whoever loses that is definitely going to be perceived as sort of tier 2 within the AFC championship quarterback standings. Not that that has any real significance, but, and if you're Josh Allen, you're likely to win the MVP. But then if you've lost to Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, then, it looks different. But Lamar Jackson will know that people see him as the regular season quarterback, that he doesn't come up trumps in kind of like big games sometimes. And he'll have more pressure on him heading into that game. But no, I think the Ravens look really good. Weirdly enough, Justin Tucker is one of the biggest areas of concern. I do not trust Justin Tucker, which is something that would have been, inconceivable to say 2-3 years ago. But if you're telling me Justin Tucker has to hit a 50-yarder to win the Ravens the game, I don't want them to be doing that.
Yeah. And real quickly, we don't have to sit on it for too long. At what point, as a Steelers fan, is having a team with a winning record and making the playoffs just not enough anymore?
I don't know. I'm sort of torn because I think the thing that I would struggle with as a Steelers fan is that the way they play and the way they win at the moment is not fun. But the reality is, you support your team. And if you just told me that they get to the playoffs every year, then that should be ostensibly a fun season. And, that's the desired outcome. And whether you win the Super Bowl, if you can maybe every once in a while win at least a playoff game, I don't know. That feels like there's 20 teams in the NFL who would be insanely jealous of what the Steelers are able to do. And would you rather be a Steelers fan and be complaining about the fact of, oh, we go just over 500 every year, make the playoffs and lose? Or would you rather be a Browns fan? Or would you rather be, even worse than that, be a Jags fan or, whoever it is where, they dream of scraping together playoff seasons now or having some semblance of consistency and professionalism within their team, but they need a quarterback. And until they have a quarterback there. Yes, we spoke about it last episode. Tomlin at a certain point is hurting them because you can't go through the full rebuild unless you get really bad. I guess the argument could be if they really wanted to chase a quarterback at some point, they just get really aggressive in a draft and decide to, mortgage their future to get, give up three first rounders and a few second rounders and stuff to get yourself in the top 3 and pick a quarterback that you want. That's the alternative. They can be aggressive in that respect. Free agency, you don't get great quarterbacks coming up in free agency very often. Also, Pittsburgh, probably not the dream destination for most free agent quarterbacks, but I don't know, Sam Darnold maybe.
Definitely, maybe. I mean, I don't know how I feel, because being a Giant fan, I've watched the team suck for many years. They did have that blip 2 years ago when Daboll took them to the playoffs. Does making the playoffs alleviate that, like the feeling of being a shit team? In my opinion, no, because I remember watching that. Even though they won a playoff game, I knew they were still a pretty shitty team and were not truly competitive to, win the Super Bowl. So for me, I'd rather have a team that I think could be a Super Bowl contender for 2 or 3 years than to have a team that is an average team, but really isn't going to do anything. I don't know if that's how other people feel. I mean, maybe people in Pittsburgh are just happy to see a team that does consistently make the playoffs, even though you're losing by double digits your last 5 playoff games. It's tough. I think you kind of have to think about what you'd rather want.
Yeah. And what I will say is, I've supported teams that are really, really bad. Not only does it drain all of the fun out of supporting them, but it also means that you don't watch games at a certain point. You can have all of your excitement and pleasure just drained from you. And, if you end up not watching, not wanting to watch, not tuning in, then your existence as a fan is sort of dead. So at least with Steelers fans, they know that they get 17 games of worth watching. Within those, they'll have a couple really bad performances. They'll have a couple really good ones. They'll probably overall do, better than they do worse, and have a potential shot at the playoffs. I think I would rather take that. Already, my stance. You're better off not winning anything so that you still have the continual hope. Steelers fans have won Super Bowls too recently for that to be applying to them.
You're almost the perfect scenario for to be a Steelers fan.
They're not quite good enough, because to be in my perfect scenario,
the Bills
are pretty much my perfect team.
Yeah,
because they're fun.
Can I see you jumping off a car onto a table? Absolutely.
Yes. With great enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And setting myself on fire in the process.
Let's get you to a Bills game next year. That should be the goal.
But no, the Bills are pretty much the dream team for my mindset, because you got a ton of heartbreak. So you have to really, really want it. You'll have never seen success. They're really fun to watch at the moment. And you can go into every season with extreme hope that this is the year. And they're getting just close enough and then losing in heartbreaking fashion as they start to get close. They need a heartbreaking, I know they had them in the 90s, but they need another heartbreaking Super Bowl loss in the next year or two to really cement themselves as the perfect team.
I mean, they've got enough AFC championship losses now.
Yeah. And some really bad ones, the 13-second game, or, however you want to coin it, stuff like that. They've got some really, really bad ones. Yep. But yeah, the Bills are pretty much the personification of my theory.
You can wear your cowboy hat at a Bills game for sure.
And think about it. If you doubt my theory, who are probably the most diehard fans in the NFL? Probably the Bills fans.
Well, that's more than just that. There ain't much else in Buffalo to do.
But it's the perfect petri dish for intense fandom. So, yeah.
So, great segue. We can quickly hit the Bills, who another dominant performance, very similar to the Ravens, actually. I mean, great quarterback play, great running back play. James Cook, I think, had like 120 yards, something like that. looked really good. Defense looked solid. I think this is the matchup of the year. Ravens, Bills. They both look at the top of their game. They both desperately need this, and they both are going to fight to the end for this game. I hope this game is as good as it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah. No, I think whoever wins this probably wins the Super Bowl. I'm of that belief.
We know.
The Bills, yeah. the Bills game against the Broncos, it was a little closer for a little longer than, say, the Ravens game was. I do think you at least had sort of going to the end of the first quarter.
The Broncos went up 7-0. That's why.
No, I know.
It was closer.
but even then, on the next couple of ensuing drives and stuff, you sort of felt like, okay, the Broncos are not totally incompetent, and there's a chance here that the Bills might stall at a key moment. But yeah, obviously by midway through the third quarter, it was game over. And yeah, no, I think, look, it's disappointing in the sense that there are so many blowouts. And we had the conversation about college football, right? And, the system's a little broken because you got to the college football playoffs and they were all blowouts and you need to figure out a better way so that you have close games. And then you get to the NFL playoffs, which is determined seemingly in a much more logical fashion. And yet, there we go, round one, every game's a blowout, except for one. So sort of unfixable, maybe. But it was disappointing as a fan. The Bills game, yeah, I was able to switch it off early. I did not watch the fourth quarter. It didn't feel worthwhile, but yeah, they were impressive as well.
And then we can move on to the Eagles-Packers game, which I honestly have to say I think was the worst, at least in playability, of the games that we watched. It was choppy. Neither team looked good offensively. Neither team looked great defensively. Tons of penalties. Like, it was all over the place. It was not a playoff game. Like, if you told me this is a playoff game and you just put a random game on a TV, I'd be like, this is a week 12 Thursday night game is what it looked like. The Eagles end up winning this game by 12 points, but at no point do I think they looked good. Hurts did not look good. The defense looked decent, but I honestly think it was more of the Packers just not playing well, not prepared well, losing two more receivers in that game. I am not confident in the Eagles going into this next week.
No, I think that's fair. I think the good news for the Eagles is, they're playing the Rams, who, I'm not saying that's an easy game, but if you could have told the Eagles that they were going to make it this far and then they were then going to be at home to the Rams, that would have felt like as easy of a potential matchup as they could have reasonably expected. No, I don't think the score flattered the Eagles slightly in that game was up for grabs for longer, and the Packers made some dumb mistakes at key moments where they, didn't come away with points or as many points as they should have, and that they had the chance to make things closer. I think they also, we speak about it all the time, they made a mistake not going for two when they cut it to a 6-point lead, because they could have put themselves, yes, the unsuccessful 2-point conversion would have sucked, but realistically it has no impact on where you sit. Whereas the Eagles then drove down, got a field goal, made it a 9-point game, which was game over because there was 5 minutes left. And they could have been in a situation where that was an 8-point deficit, a 1-score game. Yes, you need 2 successful 2-point conversions. You probably fail on one of them, but you at least give yourself a chance. So that was one of the scenarios where it felt like the coach made a mistake. We usually feel like they're too aggressive in when they decide to go for two and stuff, but this one was a stupid example of the kind of conservative traditional play. But no, I mean, the Packers were so injured, so depleted. Jordan Love didn't play particularly well. The Eagles can't really come away from that feeling particularly good about themselves. The only real talking point that everyone's caught up on is Saquon Barkley deciding to sort of break for a first down and then go down sealing the win, but in the process denying everyone. It looked like he had complete open field in front of him and probably would have been able to run for a touchdown. So many people had Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown scorer in all of their game builders or accumulators parlays for the weekend. I know you had the over on his yards, which he fell 7 or 8 yards short of, and he could have certainly picked those up on that run if he'd wanted to. So
I actually, real quickly, and this, again, it didn't end up mattering because I then lost subsequently anyway. I disagree with the fall down there because, again, I get he's a team player. He didn't want to play in week 18, blah, blah, he's a team player. It's not a one-score game. You're already up 12 points. So scoring a touchdown isn't like you now give them the ball back and they have a chance to whatever. It makes it a 3-score game with, a minute left? Like, at that point, just at some point, you need to understand that at the end of the day, 15 years from now, people aren't going to say, hey, do you remember that time that Barkley was on the Eagles and he slid and never did? No, they're going to say hey, Barkley did or didn't win a Super Bowl. That's the only team aspect that's ever going to come up. And then it's going to be, and then he did this much in the regular season, this much in the playoffs. When you have a chance to make good plays, and it isn't going to hurt your team, just make a good fucking play, man. You never know. You could get hurt in the next game, and that could have been your last play. At least, hey, I had some great runs that game, had that cool touchdown, but you never know. I think at some point you need to be a little selfish if it's not going to, at the end of the day, have any effect on your team. The team would have loved if he scored that touchdown. They would have went crazy on the sidelines.
They bitched at him on the sidelines when he came off. I mean, not the coaching staff, but the players. I do agree with you. I think we can get too smart in terms of the decision of when you shouldn't score and stuff like that. Although it is hard to argue, the game was over then. They were able to just take a knee. Yes, you're right. It's not a one-score game situation where the game would have been over if he'd scored. But you do run. I mean, he spoke about, maybe I tear my hamstring or someone on the team chasing me tears their hamstring. I mean, I don't know. Potentially, yes, but maybe you do have an injury either on that play or on a defensive play that then has to happen that didn't need to occur. So I'm a little torn. It doesn't bother me too much. I do get what you're saying, though. At some point, try and do special things, have big plays, have big moments that become iconic and people remember you for. Game sealing, big breaks. I mean, you think about it, we could, there's a lot of plays that if you were doing the smart thing, you think Marshawn Lynch and that earthquake play that he has in that game against the Saints by the Saquon Barkley logic.
Eddie, it's the hold my dick play. It's not the earthquake play.
All right.
Let's call it by what it's known by.
By Saquon's Barkley's logic, he should have just gone down once he got the first down and, not risked injuring himself. And, but then you don't get the play that really defines your career. Now, admittedly, I don't
I will stand by this. That play has made his post-NFL career.
Probably. But, Saquon Barkley bursting into open field was not going to be as iconic for sure, but you are at least starting to put together a sort of postseason portfolio of big plays. The one thing I don't like, people need to stop bitching about, you lost me my bet.
Yeah.
We can do that amongst ourselves. I can be I'm fine with you being man, that sucks. He could have easily picked up the 8 yards I needed to win my bet. That's fine. But don't go on Instagram being the NFL is fixed. They told him not to go for it. Or responding to Saquon Barkley's highlights being I would have won my bet, but he didn't go for 9 more yards or he didn't score a touchdown. Get over yourself.
That's why it's gambling.
And they don't care about your bets. They don't have a responsibility to win you bets. That's
no,
not
because
going out.
The problem is there's an occasional asshole every year who gets someone complain to them and will pay them out or give them a signed jersey. And now you have every fucking asshole who loses a bet trying to shout out the player who lost them the bet. Half with the hopes that then they'll respond and give them something.
Do you know how many signed jerseys I would have if every player?
They would have thought you were in the NFL doing jersey swaps with players.
People would walk into my room and be like, "Are you a super agent? What is going on here?" It's and it's nope, I'm just really place really stupid bets that lose sometimes, and people feel bad for me. But like, and again, complain to your friends. You get a bad beat, you get a little bad luck. That's definitely an example of, man, under other circumstances he scores or he picks up the extra 10 yards. I get it. That's annoying. I would be frustrated if that had been the reason I lost. But if you're going to publicly complain about it or think that it's some type of NFL conspiracy, I mean, why would, as if, I mean, people literally genuinely mean it as if DraftKings is calling into the side. Do you know what? Do you know what the Eagles would have done if that was really the conspiracy? They wouldn't have handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley. Like, why would you have run the risk that something happens if you were that concerned about people winning some bets? But anyway.
So real quick, the last thing I want to cover on this game, I think, is another thing a lot of people complained about, and maybe they just don't know the rules. So I think this is something worth mentioning. The opening play, which actually might have turned the entire game around, the Packers returned the ball and the player fumbled it and subsequently recovered it. But then when everything was in the pile and they reviewed it, they gave the ball to the Eagles. And that was, I think, a decent turning point when you instantly lose that possession on the first play. When they show the sky cam footage, which is that camera that's on the wires, you can clearly see that after the guy fumbles it, he grabs it and he's got it for at least 2 or 3 seconds, which is more than enough time because he's constantly being touched there on the pile. That should have been his ball. And people went ballistic on Instagram, on social media about, like, how dumb are the refs? Like, how are they overturning this call? You can't use Skycam as a ref to review a call. So they can't see that footage. And even if, like, it's on the big screen and they happen to see it, they can't use that footage. So from their vantage point, they did not have that view straight up top that shows him having the ball for 2 seconds. And because of that, you can't overturn that call because they had called it a fumble for the Eagles on the field. Like, I kind of think it's stupid that you can't use all the cameras that are available, especially in playoff games, but that's the rule. And that's how it is. Like, that's why that call was that call.
Yeah, look, it was an interesting set of games this weekend because you had some weird rule debates or inefficiencies in the rules come up. We didn't mention it, but in the Chargers-Texans game, you had a kicker who seemingly was slightly unaware of what the rules were, or at least didn't read the situation correctly in the moment when he decided to bat the ball down in a scenario where it was still going to be a live ball no matter what happened after he batted it. You can give him the benefit of the doubt of maybe he either didn't know if the ball had passed the line of scrimmage or didn't, just caught up in the moment. Things are moving so fast that you're not, like, processing the rules properly as you're doing it.
His reaction confused me because then I was like, wait, what's the rule? I'm confused now.
And then, yeah, you're right there. It sucks that you can't use every available camera action. And I think you can be overall critical of the NFL. We speak about it sometimes why you don't have the really clear view down like the goal line and all sorts of different things where you'd think you'd standardize all of that and try and have everything be as available as possible. But no, it makes sense.
And then we get to the best game of the week, or the weekend, and that was the Commanders Bucs, with the Commanders winning 23-20 on the walk-off field goal.
Yeah. Can I give you my hot take from the weekend that's really going to make you laugh? You know how they sometimes ask people, do you think an average person could run for a yard in an NFL game? And I mean, I hate when the NFL players say no, when it's, well, yes, if you have the right offensive line in front of you, if they don't know that you're just trying to pick up the yard, for sure you could. And also what counts as average becomes a little bit of a tricky situation there. But my confidence in myself that I could pick up a few yards in the NFL grows every time I watch Baker Mayfield just barrel over people. Because people are bouncing off. I don't know what's happened to Baker Mayfield this year and that he has become a much more dangerous runner, but it's not like Lamar Jackson where he's just making people look stupid and breaking ankles. He just puts his head down and runs straight forward, and you see linebackers, safeties, corners just bouncing off him as he charges towards them. It makes me far more confident in the idea that if I could just kind of take off and just decide I was going to run through a wall, that I could knock someone over in the process, depending on who it was.
I would love to see that. That is the Average Joe's TV show that aired for 3 seasons and then was gone. All right, I have two Commanders Jaden Daniels trivia. I'll give you the first one. Only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL have engineered an offense on the road in the playoffs with no punts and no turnovers. One was Jaden Daniels. Who was the other quarterback? Slightly deceiving because they did have a turnover on downs, but that doesn't count as a turnover. But they did not obviously punt. So they did not punt and they did not have a turnover.
Is this sort of relatively recent within, let's say, the last 10 years?
Not within the last 10 years.
Okay, but close. So last 15, based
20.
on how you tried to last 20. So obviously they had to be high scoring. I'll say Aaron Rodgers with the Packers.
It was Peyton Manning in 2003 with his first ever playoff win. He had a perfect passer rating that game.
It's a fairly specific statistic, but still, yeah, it's impressive.
That was 41-10. He won that game. All right, now I'll give you the other one that there's a little more trivia involved in that one. Okay, you ready? Only 4 rookies have ever won a road playoff game. Can you name the 4 rookies? I'll give you a hint. One is Jaden Daniels. So can you name the 3 others?
It's going to be tough because you have to start thinking about who was actually a rookie, in these weird things where they didn't play because people would leap to Mahomes, didn't play in his rookie season.
They are all in, quote unquote, our era.
Okay. There's sort of a temptation.
2 of the 3 are still in the NFL.
2 of the 3 are still in the NFL. Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson is one of them, yes. Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks, obviously.
Jared Goff.
Not Jared Goff.
Is the player still playing a starting quarterback?
Not a starting quarterback.
Ooh. And the other one's retired. So, but in our lifetime.
Yeah, retired, quote unquote. I wouldn't say he retired on a high note. He kind of fizzled out of the NFL.
Cam Newton.
No.
Fizzled out of the NFL.
He was on a team with a very good defense and was just kind of chugging along. The team never made it to the Super Bowl, but they would consistently be in the playoffs and be a tough team to play in the playoffs because their defense was so good. I think 10, 15 years ago, AFC. He's also known for having one of the most infamous plays in the NFL that has a name for it.
Oh, the butt fumble?
Yes.
So, okay, it's Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez, yep. And the other one is a Super Bowl winner. He did not win that year, his rookie year, but he then went on to win a Super Bowl 4 years later.
Is it Rodgers?
It's not Rodgers.
Oh, he didn't play in his rookie year.
He didn't play in the Super Bowl his rookie year, but he won.
No. But Rodgers didn't play in this rookie year, so it was given the parameters, it was a stupid guess.
The road playoff win for his rookie year was a 27-9 win against the Miami Dolphins in 2009.
Rookie quarterback, 2009, Miami Dolphins.
So January 2009. So obviously he was
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, yes. Nice. Good call.
Well, you did give me a lot of clues at the end. So.
Yeah, so only 4 quarterbacks ever won, which is a crazy stat. Only 4 rookies have ever won a road playoff game.
Yeah, no, that's not bad.
Gotta say, I feel bad for Baker Mayfield in this game. I don't think he played terrible, I mean, the stats would kind of, he was 15 for 18. I mean, literally can't do much more than that. I think this was also a game that it was more of a coaching. I definitely think Bowles was out coached this game. I know we've talked about this before, but there is nothing stranger than when they pan the camera to Bowles and he looks like he doesn't even know he's in an NFL game. Like, I don't get it. I understand some people are stoic and that's their personality, but it's like, do you even care? Are you even watching what's happening? It's regardless of that. I definitely think they were a little outcoached this game, and the Commanders just had a better game plan going in. They relied on their star. They relied on their quarterback, and that's how they won it.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got bailed out a little bit, right? Because you kind of go into the decision making from a coaching perspective. I think Baker Mayfield was okay. The sort of mangled handoff that led to the fumble that bailed the Commanders out after they had failed on their 4th and goal. That was a game-changing moment where if the Bucs can even put together a 20-yard drive and punt, I think maybe there's a strong chance that they win.
Yeah.
And then equally, you could be critical of Baker in that they then had the ball with a chance to take the lead late, and they came up short and ended up tying the game in a situation where it felt like, I don't think neither of those teams can really trust their defenses. So if you're going to put a scenario of, well, it's a tied game with 3-4 minutes left and the other team has the ball, you can't feel that confident that the team is not going to get themselves into field goal range, which ultimately did happen. So you can kind of commend the Commanders for being very aggressive in terms of like going for it on 4th down on ensuing possessions. They had to the second time around after the fumble, but still, they committed. It was a very Dan Campbell-esque series of play calling of just like, we're going to keep going for it. And, the Bucs then had a similar situation in some ways and decided to just take the field goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Baker Mayfield, I feel a little sorry for Baker Mayfield, but at the same time, his stock has risen so much over the course of this season that overall you have to feel happy for him.
Yeah. And, we talk about it a lot that teams sometimes overthink plays. So I think the game was literally on that second to last drive when the Bucs, like you just said, drove down and kicked the field goal to tie it. It was 2nd and 1 at the Washington 12-yard line. And they tried like that Mayfield sneak up the middle, didn't get it. 3rd and 1. And instead of just doing it again, they run a terrible run and lost 2 yards on that run. And then it went to 4th and 3 and they decided to kick the field goal. One, you can almost always get a yard on a QB sneak. If you don't get it on 2nd and 1, just do it again on 3rd and 1. You're going to get it with a QB sneak. Or I really actually like what a lot of the teams are doing where if they don't have a QB that they think is strong enough or tough enough or literally like lengthy enough, big enough, they have the tight end do it. Mark Andrews has gotten really good at it. And what was the other team that did it? Maybe the Packers with Kraft, was it? Some other team did it. You saw it work well. Do that then. It's almost impossible to stop a sneak for a yard once, let alone twice. Like, don't get too fancy. Just do that. The other thing I'll say, on that 4th and 3 from the Washington 14, even though they're down 3, I think I go for it.
Yeah, it would have been tough because obviously you run the risk of not getting the ball back, or if the Commanders put together
it was 5 minutes left for those drive. Who don't remember.
But I would have felt good enough of, look, if we get it and we can score a touchdown, we're in a way stronger position. Either way, you're trusting your defense, right? You're either trusting them, it's a tied game and we need the ball back, or we're going to run the risk here of you need to get us the ball back. And in a sense, you could have said to your defense, well, if you only hold them to a field goal, that could be okay, as long as we don't let them eat the clock, which is ultimately what they did. But, I don't know. I probably would have gone for it, but I understand why you don't. But I probably would have I always think, it's if I didn't have a bet on the game, if I'd had a bet on the Commanders, I think I wouldn't have wanted the Bucs to go for it.
Yeah.
I think I would have been like, oh, good, they're settling for a field goal. This is better. Whereas if they'd lined up to go for it, you'd been like, oh god, they're going to get it. Then they're going to drain another 90 seconds off the clock and score a touchdown, and then the Commanders are really going to be in a hole.
Yeah, their defense, yes, they'd only let up 20 points, but they were leaking yards left and right. So I wouldn't have been super confident that to give them the ball back with plenty of time that they couldn't drive. And today, I do agree that field goal kickers miss 30-yard kicks routinely, but at the same time, they can a lot more easily kick like a 55-yarder. So in that sense, you only need to get 35, 40 yards. Like, you don't need to get that many. One good throw and you're almost in field goal range nowadays, at least with a shot. So I don't love ever giving the ball back in a tie game with like 3 minutes left or less. It almost seems now, if you give the ball back tied or like down 2 with a minute 30 left, you've lost the game. I can't remember the last time a team has stopped an opposing team on a final drive to kick a field goal. That's how crazy it gets nowadays.
We've seen it happen for sure, but yeah, no, it's true. You'd much rather be the team with the ball in that scenario.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have been the case like 20 years ago. You'd be like, oh god, they're going to string together a game-winning drive now. And literally it is like, well, they got the ball in their own 30. If they can get 25 more yards, they got a chance.
Now, as a segue here, when Baker Mayfield fumbled that ball, he looked so angry. I thought he was going to like break something. That was a person who was so upset and angry with their mistake that it was scary for a second. I thought he was going to punch a player on his sidelines. Would you rather?
He also looked devastated when they lost.
Yeah. Would you rather have a quarterback make a mistake and just be super, super angry, or have the Penn State quarterback, Drew Aller, throw one of the worst interceptions in the history of college football playoffs and then start crying as he's walking to the sideline? What reaction do you like better?
I don't want the crying. Crying is too far. I also don't want referencing college football too, the the Texas Ohio State game where you had Ewers fumble, and then because it was his former roommate who recovered the fumble, kind of playfully interact with him as they went off the field too. I don't want that either. So I think of the 3 possibilities, I would rather have the angry Mayfield reaction, but I want someone to be able to recover quickly. I was watching not too long ago an interaction with Novak Djokovic, and who actually I want to bring up briefly later as we may mention the Australian Open. But Novak Djokovic was speaking about how a lot of psychologists, when he was early in his career, sports psychologists would talk about not beating yourself up, not having down moments, and wanting to kind of stay focused and think about what's to come. And he thinks that a lot of his success has been the acceptance and the willingness to be disappointed and angry at yourself, but that you can only do it for a short period of time. And that the key isn't that you don't get angry or disappointed with yourself, but how quickly you then recover. So he says he routinely will allow himself a point, maybe 2 points, where he just screams at himself. He's angry. He gets it out of his system, and then he refocuses. And that's how he thinks about his sort of psychology approaching a game. So as long as Baker Mayfield is allowed to have that angry moment going off, but then that it's not impacting him when he gets the ball back. With Baker Mayfield, I have slight concerns that it's still impacting him when he comes out onto the field next time. That he's like sort of thinking, I'm gonna make up for that. And I don't want a quarterback walking out for the next possession thinking they're going to make up for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I guess transitioning then into the college football, you had Notre Dame beating Penn State 20.
Well, we have one game left.
Oh, okay.
Rams Vikings. The only not too much.
But
We did, although I have to say, because we spoke about refereeing issues, officiating issues. The I get that technically, I mean, that was at a 10-3. There was a moment in the game, Rams up 10-3, fumble called on the field from Stafford, return for a touchdown, would have made the game 10-all. They review it, and Stafford is attempting an impossible pass to kind of flick it towards Puka
It's not a
Nacua, I
pass.
guess.
Don't call it a pass.
I understand
a
that with the way
flick.
Yes, I understand with the way the rules are constructed, it's kind of getting into like a tuck rule scenario in a different way, but that because his hand is moving forward, they have to rule it an incomplete pass, and then they can't review intentional grounding, so it just goes down as an incomplete pass because of how it was called on the field. That was insane. I think a quarterback has to be punished for the idea that you basically, on the back of that, I would be talking to all my quarterbacks and being like, mid-sack, just flick the ball. The chances that it bounces into a defensive player's hands are small, and there's a good chance it gets called. If it gets called a fumble on the field, that's actually a win for us because then you won't get the intentional grounding penalty, which is kind of the only outcome we don't want in that scenario. But that to me is a fumble. I don't think it would have had too much of an impact, but definitely at the time of the game it was. If it had been 10-all, then you never know. But something has to be done about how that's
now
assessed.
Okay. Whether it's a fumble or not is murky to begin with. And yes, again, like you said, maybe his hand is somewhat moving forward or something like that. Okay, so it's not a fumble. What is just as annoying is, especially the guy who came on, the rules expert, and basically said they can't use review to call intentional grounding. Okay, that's fine. But if you call it a fumble on the field and then you review it and it's no longer a fumble and it's considered a pass, why can't you now say, okay, because you don't call intentional grounding on a fumble because you don't think it's a forward pass, you think it's a fumble. So you can't call intentional grounding on a play where it's not a pass. So then if you review it and the review says it is now a pass, why can't the refs get together and say, hey guys, it was a pass. Was it intentional grounding? Oh, absolutely it was, and throw a flag down. You're not using the review to call a grounding. You're using the review to say it was a pass, where then you can assess whether you thought it was an intentional grounding. And it wasn't intentional grounding. Those refs would have agreed with, like, that part of the rule is so dumb. It doesn't even make sense. You can't call an intentional grounding on a play that isn't a throw. So how can you not call it when you overturn it and call it a throw?
I don't disagree with you.
Like, that doesn't even make sense.
It was infuriating.
There's no way it makes sense.
No, and that's one of those things the rules committee has to get to the end and say, yes, we can't use a review to enforce penalties, but if we're changing the call on the field, then there has to be some leeway there where we can then, because otherwise it is just allowing quarterbacks to do stupid things, knowing that probably they get away with it, and that shouldn't be the way in which rules are put together.
And I think this is enough back-to-back weeks of bad intentional groundings that I wouldn't be surprised if the rule gets reassessed, where not even so much of like the throwing motion, but if you're not actually making a real attempt to throw to a receiver, then it should be intentional grounding. Like, you can't just throw at the ground with a receiver somewhere in the vicinity with their back turned to you. Like, it has to be
and just point to them.
Yeah. It has to be a legitimate attempt to throw it to the player to catch.
I think, unfortunately, because it's tough, right? You almost have to. I think it's not even a realistic attempt. I think the receiver has to have a realistic chance to catch it. So you can be punished for, hey, you were trying. I know you were mid-sack, genuinely trying to get a completion there because it was a crucial moment in the game, but we can't reward you for just taking a stupid risk. You weren't good enough. And yes, that's going to lead to Patrick Mahomes bitching about how 3 weeks prior he'd completed an incredible play and that, he knows that he can pull that off. That might be true. But if you try and execute it and you fail miserably, you should be punished for that. It can't just be that you're being wrapped up and you decide to try and complete a pass and there's actually kind of no bad thing that can come from it because your running back is just sitting in the flat 15 yards away and you've only been able to throw the ball 3 yards. Like you shouldn't get bailed out because of that.
Yeah, I agree. Now, do you want to switch to college football?
Yes. The sad thing is, and you and I spoke about this, it was a shame that we weren't able to record immediately after that Penn State game, because that is the most worked up I have ever seen you over a Penn State football game. And I wish that there's no way we can bring that same level of passion to this discussion because days have passed.
No,
But
there is absolutely post game, like 2 or 3 days later, I was at the gym and we've discussed my friend from the gym who is a older gentleman but a big Penn State fan, born and raised in Pennsylvania. And basically I said to him what I'd said to you is, I have over the years slowly worked myself out of being a fan of a specific team. When I grew up, I was a huge Yankees fan. I used to get super upset when the Yankees would, 1 out of every 8 years lose a World Series. It would affect your night or your day. Then obviously the Giants, born and raised Giant fan, went to games growing up my entire life, would get super upset when they lost. I've slowly worked myself out of that because I know that mentally it is not a good thing to do, and to kind of distance myself from being a supporter and letting a team dictate my mood and my emotions. I let Penn State suck me back in this year. I have done a really good job since I had graduated from Penn State of kind of distancing myself and being a fan at a distance. Like if they do well, that's great. If they lose, okay. Like I got my degree there. I've moved on with my life. I don't need to let it affect me. I think just maybe having not supported any team for so long, it kind of strangleholded me in when I saw that they were doing well and that I genuinely thought this was a year that they could win a national championship. One, their team is built in like a playoff way where they have a really good run game. They can run the clock really well. Their defense is strong, and their defense is strong in like limiting touchdowns and making big plays, like a big time sack or an interception. And you couple that with the fact that the SEC had an extremely down year. Ohio State looks beatable, at least, when they played them the first time and other times. So I as the weeks went on, I got more and more excited that this could be it. And watching that game solidified the reason as to why I don't support a team. I was so fucking angry at the end of that game. I literally think I slept for 2 hours because I was just so worked up. I was so pissed off. That was a game they should have, they have no business losing that fucking game. It was so pathetic that they lost that game, and it made me so fucking mad.
I was stunned because it's not the type of messages that I normally receive from you. You'll get the bitching about a bet losing or, more kind of a jokingly level of bitching and anger for sure. That was the first time where it was clear in the 15 years that I've known you that this was genuine rage that I experienced myself, or that we have friends who certainly experience it. But you were probably matching them on the level of anger there.
So I was so angry.
And neither of us really are that type of sports fan either. I definitely feel it more than you do, but still, I would say within the rational reaction of like, that sucks, but this is not going to ruin my week. But yeah, no, it was surprising.
It was like post game, sit on the couch and kind of just staring at the floor for a good 10 to 15 minutes. That's
the best part of life.
Yeah, just didn't even change the channel. Just had it still on with the fucking stupid celebrations, off in the background. Just, it was like, I was zoned out, just so upset. It was rough.
Yeah, and look, it was a weird game. The Penn State really dominated the first half. The game should have been done at that point. They allowed Notre Dame to kind of hang around. Not in some respects, not too dissimilar almost to the Chargers-Texans game in that, there were a lot of the Penn State was more dominant than the Chargers were, and Notre Dame was worse than the Texans were. But, they still had that similar feel. You got suddenly to halftime, and you're like, oh boy, this isn't good, because this should be over and it's within touching distance. And that's going to encourage, you're going to walk off as the winning team being like, we should be up by more. And as the losing team thinking, we're still in this. We've played probably as bad as we can play for a half of football.
Yep.
Ultimately, too, Penn State was probably hurt by Notre Dame having a quarterback injury and having to bring in a quarterback who was more willing to throw the ball downfield and actually do more damage offensively. That certainly affected Penn State's game plan that had been so efficient in the first half. But yeah, I mean, I didn't come away from it feeling like either of those teams was particularly good, and probably felt like whoever was going to win that was going to lose to whoever won the Ohio State-Texas game, especially if it was Ohio State, and we're kind of they feel like they're coming into the best version of themselves at exactly the right time of the season. And maybe you should look at it that way, that you would have been even more invested.
See, no, but this is where it also got me really worked up, because watching that game, Penn State should have won that game. I am very rational watching sports where if Penn State were to go, let's say, I'm not going to say Ohio State because I've seen them play and I actually think they should have beat Ohio State earlier in the year. But let's say it was like 2 years ago, Alabama or Georgia, and they go into that game and they're like 18-point underdogs. I understand they're not supposed to win that game, and if they go down and they lose, that's fine. But to watch a team finally be decent and have a game they should have won, outplayed the other team, and just had stupid plays after stupid plays, it's infuriating. Like that's what I think really made me angry. And like, I think the other thing too is I have been a huge Drew Aller supporter. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback. I don't know whether he's suffering the Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold big moment scenario. I give him a pass because he's 20 years old and he's extremely young and he's still learning. But that was one of the biggest you're not ready to handle the spotlight games I have ever seen from a person. There were multiple, and it's not even just that interception. There were so many plays where it had been like a 3rd and 2 and they call a read option and he decides to keep it and gets fucking stuffed. Or it's like 3rd and 8 and he stands there for 7 seconds and gets sacked. Like, he was not ready for that moment.
What I like, and listeners will not be able to appreciate this, as you were getting more worked up in that rant, you placed your finger on your neck as if you were checking your pulse there. As if you're like, I'm going to stop complaining about this. But no, look, I don't think you're wrong. They should have won the game. I will say, I do think they would get. I do think Notre Dame are, I think, going to get blown out by Ohio State. I think Penn State.
Honestly, I'm going to take Ohio State minus 20.
You said this as part of your angry rant. I think Penn State probably would have also been blown out by Ohio State, given the way the two teams are playing at the moment. I understand what you're saying about earlier in the season, but right now it feels like I don't think Penn State could kind of really hang with Ohio State right now. And so I do think maybe you dodged a bullet. I know you say that you would have gone into that with sort of tempered expectations and being rational, but you would have still gone into a championship game. And if it had then just unraveled rapidly, and let's say even Penn State had gone 7 up on the first drive, and then you'd watch them lose, 49-7, I think you would have felt it just as much, and maybe worse, being that bit closer. But no, it wasn't a good performance. It wasn't a great game.
Yeah,
it wasn't particularly fun to watch as a neutral. That being said, neither was the Ohio State-Texas game, where it was almost the same in that Ohio State felt like they should have been blowing out Texas. Then looked like it was going to be 7-7 at halftime. Then they had that screen pass that goes for 70 yards. And then even then in the second half, like, Ohio State felt like they should have put that game to bed. They didn't. Then it felt like Texas was going to score the game-tying touchdown, somehow made a massive mess of a first and goal situation by taking a loss, and then find themselves in a 4th and goal that was completely unmanageable. That was a scenario where maybe they should have kicked the field goal almost and hoped that they were going to get the ball back through their defense and then been in a game-winning situation. I would have almost understood that. Like, that's a big momentum loss from being on they started on the 1-yard line almost when they started working backwards.
I mean, to be honest, I was seeing red. I didn't even know there was another game on Friday. Couldn't even see it.
But yeah, it just feels like Ohio State are definitely the team to beat. But
yeah, no, they are definitely clicking on multiple levels. And Jeremiah Smith is just an absolute freak. Like he's getting double, triple coverage as an 18-year-old freshman right now. The crazy part is when you look at him, he does not look like a freshman in college. That guy looks like a seasoned NFL veteran. He is a beast.
Yeah. And look, if you want to be critical, obviously the NFL expanded its playoffs not that long ago, and now you have the expanded college football playoffs. The thing that you would say, the reason why maybe it slightly sucks, and I actually think this is good, but I can understand people being critical, is that it gives teams the ability to fail and some leeway, where if you're a good team, you have a better chance of hitting form at the right time. And Ohio State is definitely peaking at just the right moment, whereas there's lots of teams who would say, we were playing our best football in October or November, and that doesn't matter now. And, Ohio State were able to play badly at moments when it wasn't as significant, and their opponents are playing badly at moments when they can't afford to.
Yeah. And we texted each other in that game. I mean, I legitimately at one point thought that was going to be Arch Manning come in. And like, I thought that was going to be a Tua over Jalen Hurts when he came in and won that game for Alabama, because when it was 14-7 at half, I think that was one of the most flattering scores I've ever seen for a first half. I honestly would have said that game was like 28-0, at least 21-0. Yeah. But like the fact that it was 14-7 was crazy. I honestly, had they not scored that touchdown, I wouldn't have been surprised if Manning came in, because had they not scored that touchdown, I think, I think they go up and are 21-0.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. And look, maybe if you're critical as Texas, maybe they should have made the switch to Manning at halftime. You should have had the situation, and you can go back to that Tua decision with Alabama. Like, it's not like that game was so much of a blowout that you absolutely had to put Tua in. That was a brave move to make, being where you're making the assessment of this quarterback is more likely to get us back into the game. And maybe you should have said, Ewers is not playing particularly well. This offense isn't really working. We need to change something up. That's not a criticism of Ewers in this overall. And if you're Ewers, going back to if Sam Darnold wishes he could have been injured, Ewers probably wishes right now that he was pulled at halftime, because now, two of his defining college memories for anyone who's not a Texas fan are going to be the strip sack that results in a touchdown that basically killed the game, and then the interception on the following drive, which, okay, it was game over, but still not a great look to follow up the one big mistake with another one. So, you probably wish you weren't involved in those moments. But all right, I teased the Novak Djokovic thing, and Australian Open is underway. It's still far too early to have anything interesting being speaking about, other than Nick Kyrgios returning to waste everyone's time by just being a clown on the court. But Novak Djokovic did one of those interviews with GQ, the 10 things you can't live without.
Oh boy.
And I wanted to get your opinion on one of the 10 things that he can't live without. I'm presuming you have not seen this.
No, I have not. Can real quickly, can you just name a few things you could not live without?
It depends how boring or how creative I'm being. I would probably, I would give the standard answer of my phone, because I use it to speak to people. I use it to track sports. I would probably put that in there. No, I wouldn't get that boring. It would be tough. I'd have to put some thought into it. Nothing
we always say
interesting immediately comes to mind.
My cousin and I, someone had told him this, and we kind of always live by it, is a king size bed and a big screen TV are two things as an adult that are life changing and that you always should have. And I kind of agree with that. There's definitely something to that. Obviously, internet and things like that would be a big one. I'm trying to think if there's anything off the top of my head. Probably not. I'll say recently, I'll give a recent plug. I have the that Airfly plug that you plug into when you're on a plane, and instead of using the shitty headphones that they give you, you plug that in and it's Bluetooth enabled, so you can use your own headphones. That's been a game changer for someone who travels a lot. So that maybe that would be my thing I can't live without currently in 2024, 2025.
No, that's good. And especially, obviously, if you were a professional athlete and you were traveling even more, that would be like the good type of thing. I like when people mention stuff like that because I hate when it's, you know what I couldn't live without? My $1 million watch collection.
Yeah.
It's because not only is that not particularly interesting and it's just sort of you flexing, but also it's not like an interesting tip that someone could take away from it and be like, oh, cool, I could go and buy that. And I do like when celebrities in these types of interviews do try and pick things where, yeah, you could have something that's a bit luxurious and maybe you have one thing that is, hey, I really splurge on this, but I love it. But, and if that's one watch, like I wear this watch every day and I really, really love it and I feel different when I don't have it, I'm okay. When it's your 19 watches that you've bought, I think you could live without a few of them. So I don't buy that bit. But anyway, this is something that Novak Djokovic picked, which I'll at least give him credit. It's original and it's very much him, but I want to get your thoughts on it.
Kind of hard to explain this one. It's energetic disc, creates an electromagnetic field around it, and kind of secret is in this pattern. And so when you place it on a certain part of your body, place this part, for example, if you have the stomach issues, which I do have.
Just stop. We're good. I've got it.
Indigestion issues starts creating heat, so then it starts enhancing the metabolic functions or reduces inflammation in a certain part of the body. A doctor that I know in Serbia, who is also an engineer, he created this disc for me, and I have a bunch of those, and I do carry it everywhere when I fly in the plane. I put it on head or somewhere. I shouldn't be having it on the body parts for too long. So like 20 to 30 minutes, it does its work.
We'll put this up on our social media with the video, the original video. For those of you who will not see that, although this is always a chance to say follow the Big Chill Podcast on Instagram or YouTube, and then you will get to see it. And we'll get to take advantage of Riverside's new functionalities that allow you to share screens in high definition on recordings. But for those of you who do not watch it, it's basically a Frisbee that he's speaking about that has a weird built sort of integrated set of wiring or something inside of it. It's completely cuckoo. And we knew that because of his position on COVID and stuff, where he didn't want to get the vaccine because he believed
that stuff is super popular right now, though. He's not the only one. There are a number of people now who are not that disc in particular, but that quote unquote technology or quote unquote medical breakthroughs is very popular. It's crazy. God, if you want to be like, it is crazy to me that in 2025, you can still be such a good snake oil salesman in the medical health industry with all of the data that's out there, all the accessibility for the data that's out there, all of the ways upon which you can review things and do your own research. It daily surprises me, some of the things that people think are working or doing something that, I mean, like even some of the things, first, buzzwords are amazing. He had a bunch of good buzzwords in there. Metabolism, inflammation is amazing. As someone who does research with quote unquote inflammation, it is amazing. What's crazy is he can put that disc onto certain parts of his body to lower the inflammation just in that part of the body. Amazing.
But don't do it for too long.
Yeah, but there's a time because you don't want to. You run the risk that
you don't want to be on it.
Yeah, you don't want to be.
You'll have such a lack of inflammation that you'll just disappear.
It's amazing. Oh my God.
One thing I'll give him credit for: he's not selling that or endorsing. This is not a product you can buy. So you could at least say
right now.
You can. right now. So you could at least say it's not quite as bad as it could be, that, going to the kind of snake oil salesman side of things, at least he's not trying to, and hey, go to my website and buy this for $49.99. But here's the thing that's tough for everyone during the pandemic, and whoever these whack jobs are, whether it was Djokovic or Rogers or whatever, and you wanted to say, like, this is your right, this is to control your body. Each one of those people who you defended, if you just dig a little deeper into what their medical beliefs are, it goes from a maybe understandable, I want to know what I'm sticking in my body, to then I stick magic discs on my stomach when it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah.
That's the guy you're using as an example of what the correct approach to medical research should be. And look, unfortunately, he's such a good tennis player, and he obviously is taking good care of himself in the right ways, that you can afford to then make stupid decisions. But I as soon as I saw that, I was just, and I want to like him, and then he does stuff like that, and I can't like you.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, thank you for that. That's that brightens my day. All right. Well, I think with that, maybe we'll wrap it up, and we can save all our Premier League and FA Cup talk for our next podcast, as well as our preview for the next round of the playoffs. And
there'll be.
I'm trying to catch up on Severance, so hopefully by episode 2 we can start doing weekly Severance recaps. Sounds good.
I mean, we'll have, obviously, there's these midweek Premier League games, so some of that Premier League talk will be more interesting. In a couple
North
of days.
London Derby.
That sounds good.
Wednesday. Peacock tells me every time I try and watch an episode of Parks and Rec.
Oh, dude, because people who love Parks and Rec, they love the North London Derby.
Dialed in. All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.